You could use OLED display the normal way, or you could join me
on the dark side and start messing with its memory directly.
Do you want to know how? Then stick around. In code that controls the OLED display, you can send as many commands that are meant to change what appears on the screen as you want, but you won't see anything happen right away. So where do all these changes go? They are stored in something called an OLED buffer, which is managed by the display library. But what exactly is this buffer? It's essentially a sequence of bytes stored in the microcontroller's memory, representing the image that will be shown on the display. Only when you execute the command display is this buffer transferred to the display memory, making the changes visible on the screen. Now let's take a deeper look. Where exactly is this buffer located in memory? How is this display data structured within it? And most importantly, can we manipulate this buffer directly, outside the standard library tools? To make this easier to understand, let's look at the hypothetical tiny OLED display 24 by 16 pixels. A display like this would have 24 columns and 16 rows, giving us total of 384 pixels. The display is divided into pages. A page is a set of 8 vertical pixels in a column. Since our display has 16 rows, each column has 16 divided by 8, so 2 pages. The top page in each column is page 0, the bottom page is page 1. In the buffer that the library maintains, the first byte represents page 0 of the column 0, the second byte represents page 0 of the column 1, and so on, up to page 0 of column 23. After that, the next byte represents page 1 of column 0, then page 1 of column 1, continuing all the way to page 1 of column 23. So the buffer size is 24 columns times 2 pages, which gives us 48 bytes. In memory, the buffer is a flat array of 48 bytes. Indices 0 to 23 represent the top half of the display. Indices 24 to 47 represent the bottom half. To access the buffer directly, we use the getBuffer method. This gives us a pointer to a start of the display buffer memory, which we can store in the variable. From there, we can address the buffer, and we can manipulate the buffer directly byte by byte. This is how the buffer works for our tiny example. For a real live display, like a 128 x 64 pixels OLED, we have 128 columns. 64 divided by 8 gives us 8 pages per column, so the buffer contains 128 by 8, which gives us 1024 bytes. Organized the same way like in this smaller example. You are probably eager to see some examples. No problem. Let's start with something super simple. We will toggle the top pixel in each page, which corresponds to the least significant bit in the bytes, representing that page. This should draw horizontal lines across the display. First, we need to set up a circuit for our tests. I'll use a 128 by 64 I2C OLED connected to an Arduino Nano. I could use ESP board, but I chose Arduino because compiling and uploading the code is much faster. The code is basically the same for all flavors of Arduino or ESP. Before we jump into the examples, let's look at the common setup code that stays the same. We need to include the necessary libraries, define the display dimensions, create the display object, and declare a variable to hold a pointer to the display's memory buffer. So now that we have that out of the way, we can start working on the first example. In the setup, we initialize the display, clear the buffer, and call display to clear the screen. Then we use getBuffer method to get a pointer to the start of the display buffer. Now we can create a custom function that modifies all the pages of the display by writing to each a byte with the least significant bit set, which corresponds to the top pixel in each page. To do this, we first calculate how many pages there are by dividing the screen height by 8. Then we use two nested for loops. The outer loop goes through each page, and the inner loop goes through every column. For each position, we calculate the correct index in the buffer and set the byte to this binary number, which turns on the top pixel in that page. After updating each byte, we call display so we can actually see the lines being drawn step by step across the screen. In the loop function, we simply call our custom function to draw the lines. Once it finishes, we clear the display and the whole process starts again with the next loop iteration. Let's load the code and see the result. And it works as expected. You might be wondering, why would you want to directly mess up with the display buffer? Well, the fun part is that it lets you create effects on content that's already displayed on the screen, things that would be difficult or even impossible using only the standard library functions. One example is scrolling or shifting graphics that are already visible on the display. To demonstrate this, you will need some sample content. Let's use the standard Adafruit welcome screen, which is stored in the display buffer by default when the library initializes the display. To show it, you will use the same setup as in the previous example, but this time we'll remove the command to clear the display. That way, when we call display, the existing content of the buffer is shown, which happens to be Adafruit welcome screen. Let's create a custom function that scrolls that display content down by shifting all buffer data downward and clearing the top line. We have a loop that iterates from the bottom of the screen towards the top, copying each row of pages from one above into its current position. This prevents overwriting data while shifting everything down. Finally, the top row is cleared to create empty space at the top of the screen. In a loop, we run this function and then call display to show the current stage of the scrolling process. With each loop execution, the graphic shifts down until it completely exits the screen. Let's load the code. The Adafruit clipart is displayed and it flies away to the bottom of the screen. Perfect. Let's do one more exit effect. The setup function stays the same, so I will not display it here. Let's write the function that will dissolve the graphic pixel by pixel. Let's create a custom function that randomly fades out pixels in the display buffer. It goes through each page and column, and for every pixel, there is a 5% chance that it will be turned off. This creates a random dissolve effect across the screen. If this command for turning off the pixel isn't clear, check my Arduino tutorials on operators, where bitwise operations like this are explained. In the loop, we repeatedly run this function. With each pass, more pixels are turned off until the entire image dissolves. Let's upload it. And it works. The dissolve process is a bit slow though. To speed it up, we can increase the probability of pixels being turned off with each iteration of the loop. This way the effect becomes progressively faster and completes more quickly. Let's reload. Let's wait for the effect to kick in. And this time it works great. So fun effects aside, the other reason to choose to make changes directly in the display buffer is that those operations are much faster. Want me to prove it? Fine. Let's use one of the previous sketches, the one that was drawing horizontal lines. One small change though. This time we will measure how long it takes to fully draw those lines. To do that, I will change the custom function and remove the display command from inside the nested loop. That way we only update the screen once all the horizontal lines are written to the buffer. Let's also change the name of this function so it indicates that this one is using direct access. We can achieve the same visual result by using the drawPixel library method to draw the lines pixel by pixel. Now how do we measure the time? First we use millis to capture the start time. Then we run the function that draws the lines. After that, the display command sends the buffer to the screen. Once that's done, we capture the end time. If we subtract the start time from the end time, we get the duration in milliseconds. Let's run both versions side by side and display the duration on the screen once the drawing and rendering process is complete. The codes are loading. And as expected, direct buffer access is faster. But the difference isn't as big as I initially thought it would be. But then I noticed something. If we go back and look at the footage where we display progress while drawing the horizontal lines, you can see that the process is actually quite slow. Why is that? I didn't add any delays, so it should be fast, right? Well, the slowdown comes from the display method. It gets called every time the display updates, which happens multiple times during the loop. And the operation is relatively expensive. So now that we know display is the time-consuming part, and it takes roughly the same amount of time regardless of how we modify the buffer, we can try to exclude it from our benchmark. To do that, we capture the end time right after the drawing function finishes, but before calling display method. This way, the time needed to send the buffer to the screen is not included in the measurement. Let's repeat the test.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the official results. With a speed roughly 8 times faster, the winner, direct access!
Sorry for this. I was playing with Gemini AI and I just couldn't help it. But the verdict still stands. The direct access to the buffer is 8 times faster than doing it through library methods. That said, both methods are still fast enough for simple tasks. But if you start working with larger displays or you will do more complex pixel manipulation, that difference could become much more visible. No long boring outro this time, just know that every bit of your support counts and means the world to me. I will see you guys in my next video. Ciao.